Rep. Nellie Pou didn't waste a second. She walked into that hearing room and dropped an accusation so sharp it cut through all the political noise. The Department of Homeland Security is breaking the law, not bending rules, not making mistakes. Flat out violating federal law while threatening the very members of Congress sworn to oversee it. When a DHS spokesperson suggested lawmakers could be arrested for visiting detention facilities, a right guaranteed by law, Pou called it exactly what it was, dangerous and authoritarian. But that was just the opening shot. Behind her warning was a bigger scandal, billions in FEMA funds frozen, critical grants delayed, and the safety of millions put at risk.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from New Jersey, Ms. Pou.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, good afternoon. I wish we could have heard from you before ramming through a $70 billion reconciliation bill. But nevertheless, I'm really happy that, and glad that we have a chance to speak with you today. Like many of my colleagues, I am deeply concerned that your department is blatantly ignoring our laws. The law is very, very clear. Members of Congress can show up unannounced to facilities, and ICE must accommodate a tour of their detention centers. The fact that your spokesperson suggested arresting members of Congress who were given a tour of the facility is disturbing and certainly dangerous. We will not accept threats or intimidation by anyone at your department or across the administration for exercising our constitutional oversight authority. Now, let me just refer now to my questions. The Trump administration's funding freeze has created chaos and unpredictability for state and local governments to respond to threats. Reportedly, $100 billion has been canceled or is being unlawfully withheld. You stated today that we are a nation of laws, yet you are actually violating the law. In our recent markup, I offered an amendment to prohibit DHS from delaying or withholding FEMA grant funding. Unfortunately, it was rejected by my GOP colleagues. As my district ramps up for the World Cup, our first responders and municipalities require resources today. By delaying and withholding grants like the Homeland Security Grant Program, you do not just create uncertainty, you undermine the ability of state and local governments to begin security planning for one of the world's largest sporting events. Right now, you are a month behind issuing guidance on this critical funding. Similarly, guidance has not been issued for the nonprofit Grant Security Program, which protects synagogues, churches, and mosques from threats. These delays harm our national security. Madam Secretary, when does your department plan for the Homeland Security Grant Program and the nonprofit Security Grant Program funding to be made available?
Congresswoman, every grant under the Department of Homeland Security is being evaluated to make sure that it's following statute as required by Congress as to how it should be allocated and obligated to local states and communities. So as many of those grants were paused and evaluated, you've seen that they've been continued and put out, but if they were misappropriated into things that were off of the guidance of how the grant should be utilized, then it was changed. But these grants that have been obligated and should go forward have been continued.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just real quickly, because I know our time is it's nearing to a close. As you know, New Jersey is one of 11 American citizens that will, cities, that will host the FIFA World Cup matches next year. The final match will be held in my district in New Jersey. There will be tens of thousands of spectators at the final match and hundreds of thousands more attending Fan Fest throughout the northern New Jersey area. The World Cup is a time of international competition and celebration, but I worry about the chilling effect of the Trump administration's anti-immigrant rhetoric and America's ability to serve as a welcoming host. To add, the Trump administration is looking to reinstate and expand a travel ban targeting 43 countries for restrictions on entering the United States. Can you please tell us how you will ensure that fans traveling legally to the United States are not targeted for immigration raids?
We are already working as an administration with the teams from all the countries that will come and be competing and their fans as well to process their paperwork and to help facilitate their travel to the United States. And as you've seen, the president has formulated a task force that will focus on holding this unprecedented event and doing it in the safest manner possible while adding hospitality to it and helping people enjoy the matches and enjoy interacting with each other. And as you know, over 10 million people will attend the matches over that month-long period of time. Over 22 million people will interact through activities. You'd mentioned FanFest, and that is something that the Department of Homeland Security is tasked with. It's our responsibility to partner with local communities and cities that are the hosts, and we'll be working with your city as well to ensure that we're prepared for it, that we have the needs met, and that we are doing all that we can to secure each location.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you in that regard. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The chair now recognizes the...
And with the World Cup final coming to her own district, Pou demanded answers no one seemed willing to give. Rep. Nellie Pou's first strike was as direct as it gets, a warning about democracy itself. She reminded the secretary that members of Congress have the legal right to conduct unannounced visits to detention facilities. That authority isn't optional, it's written into law. Yet DHS allowed its own spokesperson to suggest lawmakers could actually be arrested for doing their jobs. Think about that. Elected officials exercising oversight guaranteed by the Constitution, being threatened with handcuffs by the very department they're investigating. Pou didn't mince words. She called the statement disturbing and dangerous, drawing a line in the sand against intimidation, because this wasn't just about a careless comment, it revealed a culture of hostility toward accountability. If a cabinet agency can even float the idea of jailing lawmakers, what message does that send to the American people? Pou's point was clear: oversight is not a crime, and threats from the executive branch will not be tolerated. But that wasn't the only violation she exposed. After addressing the threats, Rep. Nellie Pou shifted to the money trail, and what she revealed was even more explosive. According to her, billions in federal grants meant to keep communities safe weren't just delayed, they were unlawfully withheld. FEMA programs designed to support police, firefighters, and first responders were stalled without explanation. Nonprofit security funds, the lifeline for synagogues, mosques, and churches facing growing threats, were also left in limbo. Pou made it clear this wasn't bureaucratic backlog, it was sabotage dressed up as review. Every month of delay meant local governments couldn't plan, couldn't prepare, and couldn't protect the people who depend on them. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Her own district is preparing to host one of the world's largest sporting events, the World Cup, with millions expected in the region. Yet the very guidance officials need is already a full month late. To Pou, this wasn't incompetence, it was reckless disregard for public safety, and she warned the stakes were only getting higher. Rep. Nellie Pou reminded everyone just how high the stakes really are. Her district isn't preparing for a small gathering, it's hosting the final match of the World Cup. Tens of thousands of fans will flood the stadium, while hundreds of thousands more are expected at FanFest celebrations across northern New Jersey. Over the course of a month, millions of people will pack into one of the busiest regions in America. That scale demands flawless preparation and airtight security. But how can local officials prepare when critical federal guidance is still sitting in limbo? Pou revealed that the Department of Homeland Security is already a month behind in issuing instructions for both the Homeland Security Grant Program and the Nonprofit Security Program that protects houses of worship. These delays aren't abstract. They put real lives at risk. Every day without funding or direction is another day first responders can't plan for emergencies. And with the world watching, Pou warned, failure isn't just dangerous, it could be catastrophic. But the grants were only one part of a larger storm brewing. As if funding delays weren't enough, Rep. Nellie Pou raised another looming crisis: immigration. Reports suggest the administration is preparing to expand a sweeping travel ban, one that could impact over 40 countries. Many of those same countries will be sending teams, players, and fans to the World Cup. That means travelers who have spent months securing tickets, arranging visas, and planning trips could suddenly find themselves shut out, questioned, or even targeted. Pou warned that this kind of policy doesn't just affect visitors, it undermines America's role as a host on the world stage. A World Cup is more than soccer, it's about global trust and international goodwill. Turning away fans or subjecting them to raids would send a chilling message that undermines both security and hospitality. While officials promised paperwork would be processed and travel facilitated, Pou wasn't convinced. To her, the rhetoric spoke louder than the reassurances. She pressed the secretary on how they could guarantee lawful travelers wouldn't be harassed, and once again what came back were vague promises with no real plan. By this point, Rep. Nellie Pou had uncovered a disturbing pattern, and it went far beyond one grant cycle or one policy dispute. Time after time, the Department of Homeland Security seemed to operate in a way that undermined both transparency and accountability. First came the threats of arrest against members of Congress who tried to perform oversight. Then came the unexplained freeze on life-saving grants, leaving local governments scrambling. Add to that the failure to release security guidance for one of the biggest global events in U.S. history, and finally, the looming expansion of a travel ban that could derail international trust. Pou framed it all as more than incompetence. She called it deliberate obstruction, a strategy to stall, intimidate, and silence. And the secretary's responses only reinforced her point: vague assurances, bureaucratic jargon, and little in the way of concrete answers. To Pou, this wasn't governance, it was a dangerous slide toward unchecked power, and she was determined to call it out before it spiraled further. When Rep. Nellie Pou stepped back and connected the dots, the picture was even darker. This wasn't about one bad decision or a single misstep. It was about what happens when a powerful agency starts operating above the law, threatening elected officials for oversight, withholding billions meant to protect communities, delaying guidance during a global event, and signaling new restrictions on international visitors. All of it added up to a warning sign. Pou said it outright: "You are actually violating the law." That kind of statement isn't thrown around lightly on Capitol Hill. It was a charge of lawbreaking against an agency tasked with safeguarding the nation. To her, the bigger issue wasn't just mismanagement, it was the erosion of democratic accountability. If agencies can flout laws, delay funds, and intimidate critics without consequence, then oversight itself becomes meaningless. And once that line is crossed, the danger isn't just to Congress or one district, it's to every American who depends on government to follow its own rules. Rep. Nellie Pou left no doubt by the end of her questioning: this wasn't a matter of politics, it was a matter of law, safety, and accountability. From the threat of arrest against lawmakers, to billions in frozen FEMA funds, to dangerous delays before the World Cup, and finally to immigration policies that could alienate international allies, every piece pointed to a system broken from the inside. Pou's message was sharp and unshakable: oversight is not optional, funding is not a bargaining chip, and democratic accountability is not negotiable. Her warning carried weight far beyond one hearing room. Because if grants can be withheld for politics, if oversight can be met with threats, and if global trust can be squandered so easily, what comes next? That question isn't just for Congress, it's for every American who believes government should answer to the people. If you agree FEMA funds should go where they're needed, not frozen or delayed, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more hard-hitting breakdowns you won't see anywhere else.